I understood every word she thought was safe. In the glass house, where eucalyptus and candle wax softened the air, my son's fiancée tipped toward her mother and whispered, "El gâche les photos." She meant I would ruin the pictures. It was meant to be a private insult, but in that quiet space, the words found me. I kept my gaze fixed on the aisle, letting the remark pass over me like a sudden draft. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of a scene. I chose silence over spectacle, because my composure would keep the day intact, and it would keep me intact with it. They were focused on the image. I was focused on intent. They had their whispers. I had my years of experience. While they were busy curating the perfect camera angles, I was weighing the consequences of their actions. And in that moment, I set a clock in my head. By the next morning, either respect would be restored, or my financial contributions would be scaled back to the essentials I originally agreed to fund. It would only take 3 emails and 2 phone calls to decide what extras would play a part in the ceremony and what wouldn't. I had no intention of touching their vows or the timing of the event. I would simply adjust the extras that I had underwritten. Our agreements made it simple. All the optional upgrades were on my credit card, with a 12-hour window for changes. Pausing those add-ons was well within my rights and wouldn't cancel the wedding itself. The florals could be scaled down. The premium champagne could be stepped back. The string quartet could play their bass set, and it would still sound like pure joy. She used another language to exclude me, and I decided to use my own fluency in contracts and boundaries to include myself. There would be no shouting, no spectacle, just receipts and calm, clear terms at first light. When we met the next day, they would have a choice to make: perfect pictures without respect, or a beautiful celebration with it. And we would all live with that choice. Let me take you back, not to that glass house, but to the nights that made it possible. Before the scent of eucalyptus and candle wax filled the air, my life smelled of double shifts and cleaning supplies. My son would be asleep on a chair in the break room while I counted my tips for the second time, just to be sure. I raised him alone. His father left when the stroller still had a squeak, and the rent never waited for apologies. We learned to stretch soup to last for days, sold old textbooks, and discovered that real joy comes from thrift, not from spectacle. When he fell in love, seeing him so happy softened the years of grit and struggle. His fiancée comes from a world of polished rooms, piano lessons, and school auctions. Her linen's always creased just the right way. Under pressure, she clings to image the same way I once clung to overtime shifts. We use different tools, but it's driven by the same fear. Her need for status performance versus my journey for earned belonging. I signed half of the vendor contracts, not to buy their admiration, but to buy them ease. The string lights were to warm the glass walls, the quartet was to carry their vows on a beautiful melody, and the shuttle was so all our cousins could come without fighting over taxis. He had dreams, I had receipts. They had mood boards, I had profit margins. If the guests noticed the upgrades, great. If they didn't, even better. The point was never for me to be seen. At the rehearsal, I didn't correct her French because I wanted to answer with backbone, not with volume. My suspicions were confirmed when a photographer's assistant brushed by me and whispered, "She said you'll ruin the photos." The sting of the public insult was sharp, but my private steadiness held firm. While they were curating angles, I was measuring character. They had their whispers. I kept my place and my plan. And here's the quiet scaffolding I built beneath that calm. Our agreements clearly itemize the base package versus the discretionary upgrades. They list me as the payer and explicitly allow for downgrades and deposit reassignments to the payer within the stated time window. That line in the contract isn't for drama, it's a lever. I could remove the floral arch without removing their promise to each other. I could dim the extras without dimming their special day. This was about process, not punishment. Control, not chaos. The stakes were never about the flowers. They're about the kind of family we'll be after the confetti is swept away. Will I be offered a chair as a mother, or will I be managed like an inconvenience and shuffled off to the coat rack? Will the years of packed lunches and scraped knees be honored? Or will I be edited to the very edge of every family photo? They hold the polish. I hold the proof. They're chasing perfect pictures. I'm guarding a livable future. By morning, the choice would be simple. Restore respect and keep every bright, beautiful thing, or let the day rest on its beautiful foundation and let the boundary stand. Because belonging is not an optional upgrade. It is the base package for everyone who shows up and pays in full. At 11:15, we would meet in the side room, and before noon, the vendor portals would close. I would bring my receipts and my grace, and together, we would decide what kind of future we were building. Midnight didn't ask for sleep. It asked for a plan. I couldn't rewrite the whisper in the glass house, but I could script the morning. While the venue settled into silence and the heaters clicked on in the rafters, I opened my laptop and chose order over outrage. First, I wrote a note to the two people I love most. The subject line was, "Quick check-in before noon cutoff." The message was simple. Can we meet at 11:15 in the side room? I want us to be aligned before the vendor window closes at noon. Nothing dramatic, just clarity. I love you both, and I want this day to feel good long after the photos fade. I hit send. Then, I placed quiet holds on the extras I had bankrolled. The champagne upgrade, the floral arch expansion, and the quartet's overtime. The subject line for those emails was, "Hold request on add-ons, payer on file." The florist replied at 2:17 in the morning, "Hold placed, base arch intact." The quartet replied soon after, "Overtime paused, standard set remains." Catering replied just before dawn, "Upgrade deferred, service unchanged." By early light, the coordinator confirmed everything. Holds don't affect ceremony basics. They had their whispers, I had my paperwork. They prized optics, I tracked time. I slid the printed receipts into a clean folder and added 2 simple pages. One held my offer, and the other was a change order checklist. The offer wasn't a threat. It was a boundary stated plainly. They could keep every single upgrade if we reset the seating so I could sit in the front row, if they acknowledged the single parent who paid for so much of it, and if we agreed on boundaries going forward. No more side commentary in another language, and no more managing me like a prop. The alternative? We celebrate the base wedding beautifully, and I redirect the difference in cost towards something useful that lasts much longer than peonies. At our meeting, the choice would be theirs. What we were building together was about to be decided. Thanks for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time. Imagine this. It's your son's wedding day. The air is thick with the scent of flowers and the hum of a string quartet. But underneath it all, you're carrying the weight of an insult. One spoken in a language you weren't meant to understand, designed to make you feel small. This was my reality. I had overheard my future daughter-in-law, worried I would ruin the photos, whispering in French. Instead of a public confrontation, I chose a different path. I call it the plausibility bridge. It wasn't about romance. It was about mercy. No services would be canceled, just optional extras paused. It was about process, not punishment. Control, not chaos. The night before, my son texted back, "Of course, 11:15. A few minutes later, she added, "Yes, we can talk." The coordinator confirmed she'd wait outside at 11:30 for any signatures. I replied, "Thank you. This is about keeping the day intact." As the sun rose, staff were setting up, testing mics. I walked the aisle once, touching nothing. They had their perfect image. I had my intent. They had a schedule. I had a clock. Every minute ticking toward noon was a choice taking shape. I even printed a small card with the phrases she'd used, not to shame her, but to close the door on secrecy. I zipped up my folder, took a breath, and checked the time. We would meet at 11:15, speak plainly, and decide what deserved to exist. Before noon, we would choose what stayed bright. The lavish upgrades and a heartfelt apology, or the beautiful base wedding and a boundary finally held firm. Either way, vows would be honored. But only one would honor the years of love and sacrifice it took to get here. I was ready to choose with them, not for them, before our time ran out. The glass door hissed shut, muffling the quartet's warm-up. It was 11:15 a.m. I placed a folder on the table between us, me, my son, his fiancée, and her mother. 3 faces I love in very different ways. I looked directly at her and said calmly, first in French, Elle gâche les photos. She ruins the photos. I repeated it without sting. Then, je vous ai comprise. Je préfère le respect à la perfection. I switched back to English. I understood you. I didn't answer then because I wanted to protect tomorrow. But silence isn't agreement. I slid the folder across the table. Inside were receipts, change orders, and a simple one-page offer. They had whispers. I have records, I said. You prize image, I need accountability. Here is the path that saves everyone's face. I laid out the two choices. Door 1. An apology to me, in English and in French, front row seating without negotiation, and a toast that acknowledges the years it took to get to this day. If you choose this, we keep every single upgrade. Door 2, I continued. We have the beautiful base wedding, and I redirect the difference in cost to something truly worthy. Her mother's eyes glistened. I'm afraid of imperfection, she admitted. Everything feels so fragile, and I panic. She wasn't cruel, just scared. My son saw the totals for the first time, his eyebrows lifting at the cost of the floral arch, the champagne, the extra hour of music. Mum, I didn't know, he said softly. I should have. I don't need anything public or dramatic, I told them. I need to know I belong here with dignity. I need us to stop managing me like a prop in your photos. I need your words to match your gratitude. They had their polish, I had my truth. They had a picture, I had the life that paid for it. The mechanics are simple, I explained, tapping the page. Reinstating the upgrades requires a signed change order and a quick tap on the payment portal before the noon cutoff. It's all documented and time-stamped. Choose door 1, we sign now, and I reinstate everything in minutes. Choose door 2, we let the hold stand, and I move the funds to better work. She looked at her mother, then at me. The room held its breath. It was image management versus honest accountability. Whispers versus receipts. The illusion of perfection versus genuine respect. The second hand ticked closer and closer to 12. I'm sorry, she finally said. And then quieter. Je suis désolé. Her mother nodded. My son let out a long breath. I slid a pen across the table and opened the payment portal on my phone. We would either sign or we would stand firm. But either way, we would finally make the picture match the truth. We signed before the minute hand hit 12. The coordinator countersigned, the payment portal chimed, and the upgrades were reinstated. The apology felt owned, not performed. My seating card, mother of the groom, was moved from a forgotten side table to the front row. The string quartet began a brighter melody that seemed to warm the room. We kept the celebration but lost the contempt. In the end, we chose presence over excess. We even decided to trim the floral arch budget and redirect a portion of it to a fund that helps single parents host dignified weddings without going into debt. We chose a worthy marriage over perfect pictures. The champagne still bubbled, but the room felt lighter. The air cleared of its heavy secret. At the reception, my son raised his glass. To the work that doesn't always photograph well, he said. The packed lunches, the covered bills, the love that kept happening off camera. He turned to me, his eyes bright. Mum, thank you. His new wife followed, her voice steady. Merci pour les années que vous avez portées, et merci d'être ici en première ligne. Then, in English, thank you for the years you carried, and for standing with us, right where you belong. We clinked glasses. They had their polish. We finally had trust. They had a picture. We had a promise. When the last song ended, I stepped into the cool evening with fewer flowers than planned, but more peace than I ever expected. A future that feels possible. Later, I authorized the donation, a line item moving from decor to dignity. I didn't win a fight. I built a future I can stand in. So, I have to ask you, if an insult meant to exclude you was spoken in a language you weren't meant to understand, what would you do? Swallow it in public and answer in private, or take another way? Was my approach too far, or was it fair? Let me know in the comments how you would have handled it. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe for more content about navigating life's complicated moments with grace and strength. See you next time.